The time that I have here with Dr. Judy Wood, even with all the preparation that I've done in reading her book cover to cover, taking a look at all the images, even in this presentation, there have been things that I've seen in these visual images and hearing her representation of those things that have absolutely blown me away. And we have, in this multimedia presentation, many different ways that you'll be able to see this same information. But of course, I need to remind everybody that you can obtain a copy of the text, and I'm calling it a textbook, that has the visual images contained in it. A textbook called Where Did the Towers Go? You can find that at thepeteantillyshow.com. Click on the tab where it says Where Did the Towers Go? You can purchase a copy of this textbook. And I have also said, after reading it from cover to cover, it literally has changed my life and the way I look at things, and especially with how I've had conversations with Dr. Judy Wood. But I'm telling everyone, if you purchase this book, and if you're not absolutely convinced, this is, as Ashley Jones has said, it's the most important book since the Bible, period. If you don't agree or haven't seen something contained in that book, you send that undamaged book back to me. I'll refund 100% of your money, including the shipping costs, period. But Dr. Wood, without holding you up any further, let's proceed with the presentation.
So here we are at 1 story below ground level in the mall area that's right below Building 4. And I'd shown where the people were walking along. And in this picture, you can see on the left where it says Innovation Luggage. And down here, it's Hallmark Cards. Yeah, it's punched in a little bit down at the end. But, yeah, you see the drop lights, come loose from the ceilings, but it's not like the place is caved in and just been destroyed.
And how far underground was that picture? Just one level down?
Sorry. This is, yes, just 1 story. If you go up 1 story, you're walking at ground level.
Sure. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So here we are on the green topographical map of the debris field, and the indentations represent debris that has fallen, which is, relatively
Oh, no,
small.
you make an assumption there.
Oh, okay.
We have holes in the ground. We have indentations. That's all we know. We don't know how they got there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll deprogram you some more.
Yes, please.
But here we are looking. We're going to go down a couple of stories below that mall and look at the loading docks and that level. And
we have purple area on the right? Is that purple? And then the green area on the left in section 4. Okay.
Right. They color-coded it so that when the delivery trucks came in, they would know where to find the store they needed to make the delivery to.
Okay.
And it's purple under Building 5 and green under Building 4. Now, we're going to be looking down in the direction I've shown the arrow, looking from the purple area down to the green area. And down at the very end of the green area, you'll see a wall where the truck has to turn right and to go out of the loading dock.
Right.
That area where he turns to go out is under where Building 4 is missing.
Okay.
So if people are thinking that Tower 2 landed on Building 4, you got something coming here.
Look at that. Right.
And there's an audio that plays this. Look, see down at the very end, the green wall. That's under where Building 4 is missing.
Wow.
Going down to the parking garage. We're in quite deep.
These are the first pictures of search crews underneath the World Trade Center, desperately looking for survivors.
Somebody down here?
That wasn't a busted up parking garage. That wasn't even a full parking garage. That, to me, sounded like an empty parking garage. That nice echo. Someone down there.
Right. And this area right here looks pristine, virtually untouched, correct?
Yeah, it's more dirt on the floor, but
right.
The lights are still working.
Sure.
And this is right above that same area.
And this is the picture with the New York Giants helmet, the girl with the face mask, and she's standing in the debris field.
She's looking down like, what the heck is that?
Wow.
She's got this curious look on her face. And you can see Stairwell B in the distance, that little clump of debris in the middle.
Right.
That's all that was left of it. And that's where those guys walked out of.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And there's the corner facade, but you see these holes in the ground. Now, I noticed that surface area is dirt. The buildings weren't made out of dirt.
Below her feet, is that correct?
Yeah, and all around on there is dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at pictures from the next day and the day after, and that's where the dirt appeared.
Hmm.
This picture was taken it's labeled the 13th. It may have been taken the 12th, but it could be the 13th of September. It's not on 9/11. It's like the day or the second day after. But buildings don't collapse into a pile of dirt.
That's right.
And looking at the pictures more carefully, it looks like they came in wheelbarrows and dumped them in clumps in some of the pictures. But there's something else interesting. I've got a clip of Rudy Giuliani the next morning, the morning of the 12th, bragging, almost like he, was going to have it all cleaned up by the end of the day. Here's what he says.
We were able to move 120 dump trucks out of the city last night, which will give you a sense of the work that was done overnight. So some of the debris has already been removed. More of it is being removed, and it'll be done by barge all throughout the day today.
Yeah, like he's going to be finishing by nightfall.
Wow.
120 dump trucks. Mm-hmm. If you're busy trying to rescue people, you're going to be dislodging the pile, and if you move stuff. So what were the 120 dump trucks for?
Mm-hmm.
Could they have been bringing dirt in then? I do have photographs of dirt coming in as well as dirt going out. And I even witnessed it as recently as 2007 and 2008. 2007, they're still bringing in dirt, piles of dirt. They stir it around, truck it back out.
Wow.
Okay, here's that ambulance picture again. If there is over 1 million tons of debris that had collapsed or slammed to the ground, where is it? This is at ground level. And we know it's at ground level because there's the ambulance at ground level.
And the ambulance's tires are on the ground, at ground level, correct?
Yeah.
So even the level of dust, that's settled, the dust wasn't even that deep.
Right. Dust went up. A lot of it did.
Wow.
Gone with the wind. There may have been one layer of wheat checks, in certain places on the ground.
Okay.
But here's what James McGlynn said. He said, we just kept telling them we're in B stairwell when they were trapped in there. I remember everyone had the same exasperation I did. We must have told them 100 times. B stairwell, the second floor, third floor, fourth floor, North Tower, B stairwell, third, fourth floor. Where are you? Stairwell B, fourth floor, third floor. And finally they heard, where's stairwell B? Where's the North Tower? And that was when they were getting rescued, those guys who were trapped in there. There's
right.
stairwell B.
And people were saying, where's the North Tower?
Yeah, their buddies they're radioing to.
Right.
Wouldn't you wonder if those voices were from the beyond?
Yes.
Here's the video of them getting rescued.
Hundreds more firemen were now arriving at the disaster area, but Captain J. Jonas's Mayday messages were still not getting through. Trapped down in the remains of Stairway B, there was nothing else Jay could do.
We realized we can't get ourselves out. And that's a big mental leap for a fireman to take. Because we're so used to being the people who are going in to rescue someone. Now, the roles are reversed and you realize you're helpless yourself.
But with the survivors buried alive beneath a debris field that extended over 16 acres, it seemed they would need another miracle to save them. It was midday on 9/11, and in the chaos and confusion, Captain J. Jonas's Mayday messages were still not being received. The firemen had no idea there was a pocket of survivors nearby. Then Jay again tries to make radio contact. Unexpectedly, this time his call is picked up. One of the officers coordinating rescue operations is Chief Nick Visconti. He responds to J. Jonas's Mayday call.
I got a radio transmission from Nick Visconti. I heard Operations Post to Ladder 6. Operations Post to Ladder 6. This is Jay, where are you?
Okay, 10-4. North Tower, stairwell B as in boy on the second floor.
But the location Jay gave was unbelievable to them. The North Tower no longer existed. They asked for his location again.
He asked me that a couple times, and one time he asked me that. Somebody else got on the radio and said, "Where's the North Tower?"
I remember somebody saying it. "Where's the North Tower?" on the radio. And I said, "Oh, shit." I says, it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see. So here's where Beach Stairwell was.
Okay, and now what we're looking at is the overhead representation with the holes in the debris field.
We're looking over the World Financial Center, which is on the west side of West Street.
Right.
Back at what was left of the complex. Mm-hmm. And what I'd like to point out is that smooth dome of the World Financial Center 2 building.
Nothing on it.
Not even dinged, not cloppered. And note the building is a 44-story building. The towers were a 110-story building, right across the street, yet nothing clobbered it.
Not even any dust on it.
It may have rained. It rained on the 14th.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And this picture may have been taken right after that.
Okay.
So it could have just been rinsed off that way. But there's still, there's no wheat checks or so forth on the top of that ledge.
No debris, right.
But something else peculiar here, if you notice, is bare sidewalk across the street from where Building 7 stood.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding.
And that's the post office there.
Right.
It was a 3 lanes of traffic there. And you tell me a 47-story building fell down and didn't spill fully across that 3-lane street? It didn't cover the sidewalk completely.
Hmm. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at another picture, another angle. It shows actually an 8-story building, World Trade Center 6 and 5. Go ahead.
And in the foreground, you see there's not much left of Building 1, just the north wall, which is about the same height as the 8-story building. So you have 8 stories of outer wall, the north tower. Where are the other 102 stories?
And those wheat checks
that other wall.
Is aluminum facade, is that correct? Or is that...
It's a steel facade, outer columns with aluminum covering.
Mm-hmm.
And so the aluminum is just a decorative kind of thing.
Mm.
But the steel structure,
right?
Where's it? And just north of it, in the far upper left-hand part of that picture, is the remains of Building 7. Okay. But you see where the bathtub wall was. But we haven't seen any hint of, over 1 million tons of debris here.
1.25 million, yes.
Now, the bathtub, this important part. Sorry. If, these buildings slammed to the ground, Manhattan would have been flooded. So here's the situation. You have the towers being built 70 feet below the water table on bedrock. And they made kind of a dike around it. And you can see from the picture on the left, right at water level, this is before the World Financial Center was built there. So you see the towers are right there at water level and below, of course. And the rails, the path train, that's this subway that goes underneath the Hudson River, was built before 1910. I don't know exactly what year, 1908, 1909, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. It's over 100 years old. And it survived. They must have made stuff better back then.
I guess so.
But you can see that picture on the right, how the bathtub, that jumped a little bit. Let's see if we can get the
At what level were those rails? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it ended up on the basement, the bottom of the basement on that bedrock is where the path train station was and where the rails ended up. But they went even deeper than that, going under the Hudson. Mm-hmm. And at first they were worried that water had, that maybe leaked because water was down in the tunnels. Mm-hmm. But heck, the whole ground level was open with it raining and fire hoses and so forth. And so the water had to go somewhere. And once they pumped it out, it stayed dry. It was just the water drainage that came from, raining in the hole.
Right.
And so here's a map of the building. out in the Hudson, and you can see. I'll try to run my mouse down here.
And we're looking at a block diagram representation overhead. World Trade Center 1, 2, 6, 5, 4. Go ahead.
Yeah, kind of a map, and you can see where the original shoreline was along this dashed blue line.
Right.
And then the bathtub was built out in the Hudson. That's that red enclosure around. You can see where the PATH train subway station was.
Right.
See.
So they basically had to push the river out that way by building that bathtub.
Right. Well, they just built the towers in the Hudson and built this dike around them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put the PATH trains inside that big bathtub. They rerouted it in, 1971.
Okay.
And afterwards, well, here's during the construction, and you can see way down here in the bottom of the basement there. And then this is ground level, so that's 7 stories down. And this is when they had the old PATH train station, which was about the 4th story down.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go to our last break here. We're looking at a picture. What year was this taken in, approximately, Dr. Judy?
This is about 1970.
1970. Okay. Dr. Judy Wood is with us. We're going to be back right after this break, and we're going to wrap up in this final 20-minute segment. This is unbelievable.
Now you and your family and friends can enjoy the cleanest, most delicious.
All right. Now, if we could, just to let you know, what time do you have on your clock close by, Dr. Judy?
Let's see. It's got 2 different times. That clock can't be right. On the computer, it's 3:39.
Okay, so 39. We will, when we come back in this final segment here, we will go to 55 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So the 55-minute mark. So just gauge that, because I want to end powerfully. Just give me the last 30 seconds to carry us into tomorrow. But as we approach the 55-minute mark, just say, this is what we've covered up to this point. We've looked at evidence. We've stayed away from making any generalizations or assumptions, right? And then this is what we can expect to do tomorrow.
That's hard to do. Is just take
it's very hard.
Yeah. People ought to get ahead of it. I mean, that's human nature, I think.
Right. And I've tried to extract the stuff that I've had running around inside of my head to not talk about that, but to just look at everything that's being presented. Right.
Right.
Good.
But just being an observer and listening to the people or seeing the reaction here in the chat room, that the building, I think it was it 2, had with the dome on top, no dents.
Yeah.
Yes, no dents.
No.
And no debris on the I guess I would call it a balcony that went around it, the top floor that went around the dome. There's no debris there.
Nothing hit it and fell or slid or anything like that. Nothing even touched it. Yeah.
As I say, even if it had stab wounds above the 18th floor.
Right. So even if it had rained, with the amount of dust or debris that should have fallen on that building, would have been like a hard, mold on top of it. You know what I mean? It would have encased it still.
Yeah, the dust could have rinsed off, or maybe they cleaned it off afterwards. But the solid chunks would have still been there. But as you'll see, that the solid chunks didn't really go above the 18th floor.
Now, without, you can describe this in a certain way, but this was my assumption that I made. That was a 44-story building.
Yeah.
So at the 44-story level, everything from that point above was just complete and total dustified material. But the remaining balance of the debris field seems to be down lower to the ground, correct? Where you get the wheat checks or maybe a few stories. It didn't go all the way up 44 stories.
Right. We'll see that later. That if you turn everything to dust above the 20th story and drop just the bottom 20 stories, you get about the same seismic impact that was recorded.
Okay. And Daniel, are you there?
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel, just a quick fade coming back in. I want to use every second here and give it to Dr. Judy, okay?
No problem.
Okay, good deal. Awesome. Okay, so we have coming up on 43:25. We have about a minute here.
Somebody just made an observation, Dr. Wood. It says, look how insignificant the outer wall is in relation to the rest of the building in the picture currently posted. All the matter was in the steel core and each floor's decking. What does that mean to you?
We're coming back.
Here we go. Hold on a second. We got 10 seconds.
Oh, thought we had more.
Come listen to our new show, The Region 10 Report, airing Friday nights at 11 p.m. Central, brought to you by Suzanne Posel of OccupyCorporatism.com.
You're listening to The Pete Santilli Show. One small step for man, one giant leap towards the truth.
Okay, we're back. Real quick, we're going to preserve every moment here with Dr. Judy Wood, the book, Where Did the Towers Go? We're looking at evidence from 9/11. Back to you, Dr. Judy.
Okay, what was left of the building, after it was cleaned out, here's the cleaned out bathtub.
Okay, we're looking at, that's right, it's a completely cleared, all the debris is cleared.
And you can see where the footprint of where the two towers stood, WTC1, WTC2.
Right.
And across the street, which you can't see here, is the World Financial System. But in the NIST meeting in the fall of, or I guess it was in December 2006, they were meeting to talk about ideas about what happened to Building 7. And so there were fires there. They thought there were fires, and someone suggested maybe a piping system that went underneath the bathtub over to Building 7, which was on the right, just off the picture, that maybe it was damaged from the collapse of the towers. And you'll hear in the voice of Sham Sunder, the guy who headed up the committee, that the seismic signal was of no significance to damage anything in the underground.
Let's hear it.
I thought the seismic data you were going to look at was data associated with the collapse of the tower, particularly 2.
Yes. Oh, yes. We did look. Obviously, we have looked at all of the seismic signals. The main focus of that was to establish the timing of the various events, and if any, again, using it also to see if there were any events that we could not explain other than it being the collapse of the towers and the World Trade Center 7. The signal strength due to the collapse of the towers were not of any magnitude that was seismically significant from an earthquake design standpoint, or from the design or failure of a structural component, or of, I would say, a piping system that might be used in a structure. So there wasn't anything that gave us pause in terms of that being a significant seismic event to have ruptured the pipeline.
Isn't that incredible?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, underground doesn't look damaged.
Wow. And there's the bathtub. Wall intact. We're looking at the, we're down inside the bathtub, correct? Looking at the outer wall.
Right. In the foreground, you see the smooth concrete. That's the bottom of where Tower 1 had stood.
Mm-hmm.
And over in the right, you can see the color coding of the different stories of the parking garage under Building 6. So that hole in Building 6 did not go below ground.
Wow.
Or not significantly below ground.
That's right.
So that's the area right below Building 6.
So much for the theory that the buildings just pulverized and went into the ground.
Right.
Period. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's usually an escape from. I had somebody who was telling me, oh, well, it's just out of sight of this picture, the debris is. And then I show them a picture to the right, and they go, well, the debris is then just out of sight back to the left. Well, are they moving around 1 million tons of debris each time they take a picture?
That's funny.
So if there's a seismic impact, that's the third most important thing. If the seismic charts would have reflected that, and that didn't happen.
Yes.
And one of the first responders, Michael Ober, said, I don't remember the sound of the building hitting the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Someone told me that it was measured on the Richter scale. I don't know how true that is. If the building's hitting the ground that hard, how do I not remember the sound of it?
Yeah, clanging metal? Nothing like that.
And there was a fellow who worked on the 27th floor of the North Tower who contacted me after my book came out and explained that he knew he wasn't going to get any stuff done that day because it was just all chaos. So he grabbed up his stuff and headed home for the day. He came down from Building 1, went past Building 2, looked like the fires were about out, but the building looked in good shape. It was just, chaos all around there. And then he went down to the ferry terminal to go over to Staten Island.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And he was waiting at the ferry terminal. He said these buildings in the foreground are tall enough that you couldn't see past them to see the towers. And then some idiot came up, well, at least they thought he was an idiot, who said Tower 2 just collapsed. And they looked at him like he was nuts because, well, they just passed Tower 2 and it was in good health. Fires were about out. They didn't hear anything crash to the ground. They didn't feel the ground shake.
Wow.
And when they got on the ferry and they went out in the middle of the Hudson River, then they could see past that building in the foreground and saw there was only one tower standing.
Wow. Now, I have a question. The floors, the concrete in that building, how much concrete was in that building? I take it that the floors were made with concrete slabs. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was actually their metal floor pans with a thin layer, I think like 4 inches of lightweight concrete in it, just so you had something to walk on for the high heel shoes and so forth.
Sure.
But it was lightweight concrete in metal floor pans.
Right. Those metal floor pans
surface.
Were any metal floor? Well, the sheer number of concrete slabs and metal floor pans in that entire building, and them not making any noise, is remarkable.
Right. It should have sounded like it was raining dump trucks.
Right.
The 20-ton dump truck's empty. It's just with stuff in them.
Okay, go ahead. We have 6 minutes here.
So here's a picture of like ankle-deep dust several blocks away. And perhaps this is why you didn't hear it hit the ground, because it came down like snowflakes.
Right.
Just dust.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the seismic chart. There was an earthquake earlier that year, in January, in Midtown Manhattan. And this shows the seismic signal for that in the bottom part. And the top part, it shows the demise of Tower 1's seismic signal. They're very different in nature. And but we know that bedrock can transmit seismic signals because it did for the earthquake.
Sure.
But notice the lines are more spaced in the Tower 1 demise, and the other one, they're very closely spaced, so it's a different frequency. Also, it has a P wave, a primary wave, and an S wave, a secondary wave, arrival shown for the earthquake. But there was no S wave or P wave for the Tower 1's demise.
Wow.
And here, there's 3 kinds of signals. There's P wave, which is like a rubber band snapping. S wave, motion like a jump rope, where the motion is transverse to the direction of travel. And then there's surface waves, like if you get up off your mattress, your mattress springs back because it doesn't have that weight on it anymore. That's a surface wave. It turns out during the demise of the towers, there was only a surface wave, no S waves or P waves. Now, the P wave, the primary wave, and S wave, secondary wave, they travel, because they're different, they travel at different speeds through the Earth. They travel through the Earth. And you can tell how far away the epicenter is because they travel at different speeds. So you see that by the lead time of the P wave over the S wave, you can tell where the epicenter is.
Meaning nothing was really going on below the surface.
Well, here is for the chart for Tower 1. You see there's no S wave or P wave. That means the signal did not travel through the Earth. You're right. You got that one.
Wow.
And there's only the surface wave. And it only lasted 8 seconds. Now, you see this, I call it the snout that leads up to the big signal. That's where the lead of the P wave. You don't see that in this chart. Also, the 8-second, that the ground shook for, Houston, we have a problem because it would take 9.5 seconds approximately to drop a bowling ball off the roof and have it hit the pavement.
Oh, my goodness. goodness. That's the one that really got me. Mm-hmm.
So the ground only shook for 8 seconds. That's evidence that the building did not fall.
And by the way, the 9.22 seconds to drop a bowling ball, that calculation is done in a vacuum without any air resistance, correct?
Right.
Right. Okay.
So that's why I'm rounding up to 9.5 seconds approximately. But still, it's a long way away from 8 seconds.
Right. Okay.
And this next chart was right after the demise of Tower 2. Mm-hmm. And then the signal from Tower 1, which was a 2.3, should have been a whole lot more. And you know that the seismic signal was, were being transmitted to the recording station because of all the quarry blasts recorded all day.
Right.
But notice on the very bottom line, you have an earthquake from the Fox Islands that was recorded, but nothing for Building 7. It was a non-seismic event.
Building 7 was non-seismic?
Yeah, there's nothing significant,
right?
Really.
Right.
It was a 0.6 on the Richter scale.
Mm.
It didn't have an S wave or P wave either. And I compare it with the King Dome because it's, lots of data available for the King Dome. Mm-hmm. But remember, it takes 9.5 seconds from the tower to drop a bowling ball to the ground.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
But the top of the Seattle King Dome to the ground would be, for dropping a bowling ball, would be about 4 seconds or a little bit less.
Okay. Let's hold this thought.
Get the ground shook longer.
I'd like to get final commentary from you. We're going to be wrapping up here this segment, and ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back. I'll have final comments here for tomorrow's episode. But what can we expect to be seeing tomorrow from this point, looking at the seismic waves?
Well, instead of doing little dabs all the way through, I've chosen to do each step systematically, because the most important things are the groundwork. Remember, to figure out what happened and why we need to know what happened. And what we've covered here is, if the buildings had collapsed to the ground, you'd see a pile of stuff there, which we didn't see. The Manhattan would have been flooded, which didn't happen. And the seismic chart would reflect it, which it didn't. The seismic chart implies that the buildings did not slam to the ground.
Yep. Thank you.
You'd have a signal going through the earth.
Thank you. And these are facts, correct, Dr. Judy? This isn't speculation. We haven't made anything up. This is factual information.
Yes.
You have filed all of these pictures and documents with the federal court system, correct?
Or most of them, yes.
Most of them. Okay. Is there anybody else that has conducted a thorough investigation like this and has filed their documentation with the federal court system?
Nope, and no one's even done a comprehensive forensic investigation except for me, including NIST.
Ladies and gentlemen, here on the Pete Santilli Show, you're getting all of the evidence, not just a portion of it that suits any documentary or anything like that. We're looking at this evidence. For those of you that have been asking for a 9/11 investigation, that investigation has been conducted by Dr. Judy Wood. Tomorrow, she'll be back for more. We'll see you then.
Thank
you. Do you experience anxiety on a daily basis? Do you struggle?
Alrighty, thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you.